welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something I think a lot of language learners really aim for, which is, thinking directly in English, getting past that constant mental translation step.
Exactly. And we've got this fantastic, really detailed personal account to work with, someone actually mapping out their journey step by step to internalizing English. It gives a great look inside the process.
Yeah, and our mission here today isn't just to tell the story. We want to dig in, pull out the strategies, the sort of core ideas that made this shift happen.
Right. What can we actually learn from this for anyone learning a language or even just trying to get, deeper into one they already know?
Okay, so let's get into it. Where does this account start?
Well, it begins with that initial struggle, the part that I think probably rings a bell for many learners.
The traditional stuff?
Yeah, exactly. All the usual things. YouTube videos, those Instagram pages for learning English, even children's storybooks, trying everything.
Vocabulary notebooks, memorizing phrases. Sounds familiar.
A lot of effort going in, but here's the thing.
I wasn't quite working.
Well, there was this persistent feeling, this sense of inadequacy almost, because everything still had to be filtered through translation.
That bottleneck. So you hear English?
Then you translate it to your native language to understand it.
Then figure out your reply in your native language.
And then translate that back into English to say it. It's exhausting just describing it.
Yeah, it creates that lag, that hesitation. The account gives an example, right?
It does, a really vivid one. A tourist asking for directions. Simple question. Where's the main street?
And the learner knew the words?
Individually, yes. But the mental gymnastics of translating took too long. That pause.
And the tourist.
Just moved on, understandably. But for the learner, it was incredibly frustrating. Feeling like you should be able to communicate, but you just can't get there fast enough.
So that experience was kind of a wake-up call.
A big one. It made them realize that just piling on more vocabulary, more grammar rules, that wasn't the answer. It wasn't getting to the root of the problem.
Which leads to this sort of aha moment.
Exactly. It connects back to something an English teacher had mentioned before, but maybe it didn't fully land at the time.
What was that?
That real fluency. It's not just about knowing words. It's about thinking in the language, internalizing it.
So that earlier advice suddenly made sense in light of the frustration.
Precisely. And a key part of this was recognizing the role of that inner voice.
The internal monologue we all have.
Yeah. Even when surrounded by English, watching English shows, whatever, that inner voice was still chattering away in the native language.
Creating a disconnect.
A huge disconnect. It's like living in two separate worlds, as the account puts it. The outside world is English, but the inside world, your thought process, is still operating in your native tongue.
And constantly translating between those two worlds is just inefficient.
Totally. So the realization was, okay, I need to consciously change that internal landscape. I need to start thinking in English.
How do you even begin to do that? It sounds quite abstract.
Well, the approach described was actually very practical, very grounded. It started the moment they woke up.
Okay.
Consciously naming things in English. Simple things. Bed, window, then, actions, brush and cave, toothpaste.
Almost like labeling your immediate reality in English.
Exactly. Just making that deliberate effort to use English for those first thoughts, those first observations of the day, and then continuing that throughout the day. Walking, trees, dog.
And how did that feel? Was it difficult?
Surprisingly, the account suggests the brain kind of went along with it more easily than expected.
Really?
Yeah, like it started accepting this new input, making those connections. Of course, it took conscious effort, but it wasn't this constant uphill battle, apparently.
So small thoughts started popping up naturally.
The little things, yeah. Like washing the dishes and the thought, I'm washing dishes, just appears in English. Or folding clothes, same thing. English started seeping into those everyday, mundane moments.
That's a great sign of progress. But it can't always be smooth sailing, right? What about when you don't know a word?
Good point. And the account addresses that directly. There's an example of seeing a bird sitting on something and not knowing the word wire.
Right, that happens all the time.
Right.
The instinct is to just switch back to your native language to find the word, or maybe look it up immediately.
But the crucial thing here was the decision not to do that, to resist that urge.
So what did they do instead?
They stayed in English. They described it using words they did know, something like, it's sitting on a line, a black line. Maybe it's a rope.
Circumlocution.
Yeah.
Using the language you have to get the meaning across.
Exactly. It wasn't perfect, not the precise word, but the thought process stayed in English. Communication was prioritized over finding the single right word immediately.
That seems like a really key takeaway. Don't let the lack of one word derail you. Stay in the target language.
Absolutely. It's about keeping the flow going, using what you've got. Perfection can come later. Fluency is built through practice, through staying engaged.
So after these initial efforts, were there more obvious signs of progress? Those little wins.
Definitely. The account mentions the brain just automatically supplying an English word, like seeing a chair and thinking chair without any conscious effort.
Okay, that's cool.
Or the thought, I'm hungry, just arising directly in English. These are small things, but they signal a real shift happening internally.
And the big one, dreaming in English.
Yes. That's often seen as a major milestone, isn't it?
It really is. Why do you think dreaming in the language feels so significant?
Well, I think it suggests the language is moving beyond just conscious, deliberate processing. It's sinking deeper into the subconscious.
Like the brain is working with it even when you're not actively trying.
Exactly. The neural pathways are getting stronger, more embedded. It's becoming part of your default operating system, even when you're asleep.
That makes sense. So the internal thoughts are starting to shift. What came next?
Taking it a step further, making those internal thoughts audible.
Actually speaking them out loud.
Yep.
Even when alone.
Yep. Consciously verbalizing the inner monologue in English, it might feel a bit strange at first.
I can imagine feeling self-conscious, yeah.
And the account mentions that initial shyness, but the idea is to bridge the gap between thinking in English and actually producing spoken English.
So like narrating your day.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Simple things. Okay, now I'm making tea. I need to fold this laundry. Let's clean this table. Just talking yourself through tasks in English.
And did that feeling of shyness go away?
Apparently, yes. It became more comfortable over time. The account even describes it as feeling like having a new friend, this English-speaking version of yourself.
That's a nice way to put it. Were there any tricks to keep this going? It seems like something you could easily forget to do.
Yeah, consistency is key. So they use a simple technique, phone reminders.
Oh,
It's little prompts popping up, talk in English or think and speak, don't just think. Things like that to just nudge them back into the habit throughout the day.
And did this combination, the internal thinking, the speaking aloud, the reminders, did it lead to a bigger shift?
It seems so. The account describes a point where the thoughts and the spoken words started to feel like they were originating in English almost at the same time.
So that translation step really started to fade.
Exactly. It wasn't thought, translation, speech anymore. It was becoming more like thought speech directly in English.
But what about vocabulary gaps? They must still happen.
Oh, absolutely. And the strategy remained the same. Don't get stuck. Use what you know.
Describe it, right?
Yep. The machine that cleans the carpet instead of vacuum cleaner, or the thing I used to hang my shirt for hanger. It's about being resourceful with the language you have.
Keeping the communication flowing.
Always. Then, to deepen it even more, they started actively creating these little narratives out loud.
Like telling stories.
Even simpler. Like describing the process of cooking rice step by step in English. First, I wash the rice. Just turning mundane activities into active language practice.
Immersive, even when you're just at home.
Exactly. And taking that even further, practicing simulated conversations.
How? In front of a mirror.
Yes. Practicing greetings, basic questions and answers. Hi, how are you? I'm good, thanks. Even adding gestures and facial expression.
Building confidence for the real thing.
Totally. And all this effort started showing real results in actual interaction.
What kind of results?
Things like responding faster, hesitating less, just feeling more confident speaking English.
Any specific examples?
Yeah, there's a nice moment mentioned about helping a tourist family find the central library and doing it confidently without that previous panic or delay.
That must have felt great. A real contrast to the earlier tourist story.
Huge contrast. And it really seemed to reinforce this idea of embracing easy English.
What do you mean by easy English?
It was a conscious decision to stop chasing complex words or perfect grammar, to just trust the vocabulary they already knew.
Like the toast example.
Exactly. Instead of struggling for a fancy sentence, just saying, I put the bread in, now I wait. Simple, clear, effective.
The mantra became, easy English is enough.
That was it. And applying that not just in speaking, but in observation too. Looking around and immediately thinking or saying in English, that tree is tall, the wind is cold.
Creating that direct link again. Observation straight to English expression.
And they even wrote down easy English is enough as a reminder, constantly reinforcing that mindset.
And using description for unknown words, like the latter example.
Right, that thing you climb when you want to go higher. It's about resourcefulness, not perfection.
There was even a game element.
Yeah, a simple word association game. Take a basic word like run or water and just build simple sentences around it out loud, making practice active and maybe a bit more fun.
And that conversation in the bookstore sounds really important too.
It does, talking to another learner and sharing that insight. Fluency isn't about using big words, it's about not stopping.
That's powerful. Keep talking, keep practicing.
Yeah.
Don't get hung up on complexity.
Precisely. So the next logical step was making this integration even more pervasive.
How so?
Consciously turning every routine activity into practice. Folding laundry, talk about it in English. Making breakfast, narrate it. Going for a walk, grocery shopping, cleaning.
Just constant self-talk in English.
Basically, yes. The account shares little snippets like, okay, where are the socks? Or I need milk and eggs, just weaving English into the absolute fabric of the day.
And the cooking games, naming objects.
Yeah, naming vegetables in English while chopping them, creating tiny stories about the food, just keeping the English brain active during everyday tasks.
And the result of all this.
Yeah.
This constant immersion.
A really significant shift. Thoughts just started appearing in English, spontaneously, without trying, without translating.
Wow. That sounds like the real goal, doesn't it?
It really does. The brain just starts operating in English as a default for certain things.
Even simple things like to-do lists were written in English.
Yep. Another small way to just make English the normal way of doing things.
Did this change how they consumed media too?
It did. A shift towards watching easier English content, cartoons, sitcoms were mentioned.
With subtitles.
English subtitles, yeah.
Yeah.
But the focus changed. It wasn't about understanding every single word anymore. It was about general comprehension, just enjoying it, soaking it in.
Less pressure, more immersion.
Exactly. And music played a big role too.
How?
Singing along, a great way to pick up pronunciation, rhythm, the melody of the language. There's that fun example of getting Journey's Don't Stop Believing stuck in their head.
Uh-huh. Yeah, songs are sticky like that.
And it wasn't just solitary practice. They started texting friends in English, too.
Oh, that's a good idea. Collaborative practice.
Yeah, creating a little supportive network.
But it can't all be easy. There must have been tough days.
Oh, for sure. The account acknowledges that. Days when you're tired, when it feels easier to just slip back into your native language.
The temptation is strong.
Definitely. But the key was consistency. Even on those off days, the aim was to do something, even just one sentence in English. Keep the thread going.
Don't break the chain.
Exactly. And this persistence really built confidence, especially in public.
How did that change?
While that initial shyness around hearing English faded, it turned into curiosity. And that led to moments like confidently helping that tourist couple in the coffee shop.
Another real-world success story.
Yeah. And it cemented this new understanding of fluency. It's not about grammar books and vocab lists alone.
It's about that consistent, simple, daily practice woven into life.
That's the core message. And there's this lovely idea of approaching it like a child learns.
How so?
With simplicity, freedom, focusing on basic words, expressing basic needs and observations, not worrying so much about mistakes.
Like starting over with the basics, which led to the journal idea.
The simple English journal, yeah. Just writing 3 to 5 simple sentences daily, low pressure, high consistency.
So the overall transformation sounds huge. Truly living in English.
That's how it's described. Thinking, speaking, writing, all happening more directly in English without that translation filter, like opening a new door in the brain.
And shifting from searching for the perfect word to just speaking first.
Yeah, speak first, learn later if needed, prioritize the flow of communication.
It's about staying in that English world constantly.
As much as possible, yes. Making it the default environment for your thoughts and interactions.
And English becoming like a quiet friend. That's an interesting image.
Isn't it? Moving from being a subject to being an internalized part of your identity. Always there, supportive, making that little daily promise to have another English day.
Even quiet moments become practice.
Consciously trying to have those internal thoughts, the silence between thoughts, happen in English.
That's deep integration.
It really is. And then there are those natural, unforced moments, like the oh no spoon down example.
Huh. Yeah, that shows it's becoming truly automatic, part of your reflexes.
Exactly. It's not forced anymore. Which is supported by building those daily habits.
The nightly journaling, reading aloud.
Short, engaging things. Just keeping that consistent contact.
But what about setbacks? Forgetting words, feeling stuck, that must still happen sometimes.
Of course. The account uses the analogy of a garden.
Okay.
It needs ongoing care. You can't just plant it and walk away. Sometimes weeds pop up, forgetting words. Sometimes growth feels slow, stagnation. You just need patience and persistence. Keep tending to it.
That's a helpful way to look at it. And setting little missions.
Yeah, like having a theme for the day. Today I'll focus on describing colors in English, or today I'll try to express my feelings in English. Just small focus points to keep it fresh.
And routine media, like short videos.
Watching short English videos daily, trying to recall or repeat a key phrase. Easy, digestible chunks of practice.
It all leads to that natural self-talk just flowing.
Effortlessly, yeah. It just becomes part of your internal landscape.
The internal soft light image is lovely too.
It really conveys that sense of English becoming this comfortable, inherent part of your inner world.
And circling back to dreams, that recurring sign of deep integration.
Definitely. Dreaming in English suggests the brain has truly rewired itself in a way.
So the end result isn't just language skill, it's empowerment.
Absolutely. English becomes a gift, a tool. It opens up possibilities, travel, maybe blogging, helping others, connecting in new ways.
Okay, so let's try and summarize the big takeaways from this deep dive.
Well, I think the main thing is that getting past translation and really thinking in English is, it's gradual, but it's doable.
It hinges on that consistent daily effort.
Yeah, and embracing imperfection. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to practice. Weaving it into everyday life is crucial.
And trusting that simple language, that easy English, is often enough.
Definitely. The core idea for you, the listener, is that real fluency isn't about being a perfect translator.
It's about internalizing the language, right? Making it part of how you actually think.
Exactly. Which leads us to that final thought for you to consider.
How can you take even small pieces of this approach and apply them? Not just to language, maybe to learning anything new.
Right. What are those everyday moments in your life that could become little opportunities for practice, for deeper engagement, for making something new your own?
It doesn't have to be a huge overhaul.
Not at all. Just finding those small, consistent ways to invite it in.